Hello everybody, my name is Daulton Nelson, and today I'd like to give my thoughts on a game I just beat. That game being Pool Panic for the Nintendo Switch. Pool Panic is made by a couple of people. First is Rekim, a video game company led by Mike Robinson. Rekim has worked on a game called Ho Ho Come for the PS Vita and PS4, and Crizzle, a crossword puzzle game where you have to rotate blocks in order to solve the puzzles. Mike Robinson is also the former head of technical at Zombie Flesh Eaters, the Jamie Hewlett company behind Gorillaz, and had worked there for years prior to starting Rekim. Pool Panic was also drawn and animated by Angus Dick, an animator and illustrator who's worked with Adult Swim, Sony Santa Monica Studios, and Nickelodeon. Finally, Pool Panic was published by Adult Swim Games, who has been making some waves in the past couple of years by publishing games like Duck Game, Volgar the Viking, and Jazz Punk. 3 very fun games. I knew very little about Pool Panic before I played it. How I did come upon it was through a friend's recommendation, onto which the pretense was I asked him for a game that I could complete over the weekend, specifically over a vacation. Once he recommended me this game, I was instantly hooked as soon as I saw the first trailer. The animation looked really vivid, and the gameplay looked really cool. And thus, this was the first game I had bought at full price since God of War of this year. So I had some pretty high expectations going into this game. And I gotta say, I was not let down at all. I really loved this game. Starting with the first thing many people will probably notice about Pool Panic, its cartoony style is very unique. Everything in here looks very cartoony, flat, colorful, humorous, detailed, and animated. Angus Dick did a great job bringing his own style of animation onto this project. I can definitely say without a doubt that this game has got its own unique standout qualities. Any 3D models in this game look very flat and cartoony as well, very consistent with the art style. And this is probably partly due to their textures and shaders that they used in order to achieve this effect, which is impressive on its own. I can definitely say that this is a step up from the normal cartoony games that I play. The humor in the game is purely visual. There's no real dialogue in the game at all, only a couple of speech bubbles delivered by a couple of characters, and this is usually used for tutorials or to guide the player, which makes sense. The art and humor of the game did remind me of some of the more modern cartoons that are showing today, like The Regular Show or maybe even Rick and Morty in some respects. The humor style also kind of reminded me of, and this is a weird comparison, but it's something that it did remind me of, it's the Fruit Snackia commercials from Gushers. I don't know, I just found the two styles of humor kind of similar. I'm wondering if anybody else kind of drew this comparison. The sounds in Pool Panic are pretty good. There were a couple of sound effects that I could recognize from other games or other things in general, but nothing too distracting. The soundtrack, which is composed by Grandmaster Gareth, is also very good. It's very upbeat and cartoony and colorful. At times he throws a couple of odd instrumentation or layers onto some of the tracks, which fits into the theme of the game. I did think some of the tracks got a little repetitious with their looping, but overall, it's a solid soundtrack. There is somewhat of a narrative within Pool Panic. The premise is that you're a cue ball that has to clear pool tables around the world in order for a giant cue stick to grow out of the ground, in which you then descend into the stick to fight a ghost of sorts. After defeating it, you play a real-life game of pool. Or at least I think that was the goal or the motivation for your cue ball throughout the game. He seemed pretty excited at the end there to play a real-life game of pool. I found some of the narrative elements to the game to have some kind of psychopathic undertones to it, which isn't a bad thing. If anything, it adds to the humor of the game. And what I mean by this is, the protagonist clearly enjoys pocketing balls who shiver in fear, as well as destroying property and injuring their animals, which the fish and beasts take the form of pool balls in this game. I thought that was just a little funny elemental detail that the developers added into this game. Now, the world that is presented within the game Pool Panic is very varied, but can also have some standard set pieces as well. So you've got like your desert, your dark woods, your jungle, your snow. You also have a cake level. You have a level based off of what I can only describe as an acid trip. You've got a city level, a neighborhood, and much more. And this kind of variation between settings within the game added to the moment-to-moment gameplay and the unique qualities that you could find within that, which we'll get into later. There are also several references to pool games. For example, there are a lot of tables in here. There's chalk cubes, rails, pockets, cue balls, 8 balls, and other things of the sort. Again, lending to the detailed approach that the developers took to building this world. Now, I think overall, above anything else, the gameplay really stood out to me. It was my favorite part of the game. Pool Panic at its most basic form and stripped down form is a puzzle game. There are various elements that seek to challenge you and improve upon what you are doing, as well as meet certain requirements in order to clear things. Also, the whole calculating what angles to hit balls at, and taking into account what shot to use, and knowing what a specific table could hold, also lends to the fact that this game is kind of like a puzzle game. Now, the game and the gameplay itself is loosely based off of 8-ball pool, where players must clear all the balls before they must clear the 8-ball last. The developers take this fairly simple, easy-to-understand concept of pool and really stretch it out and make something that is really unique, as throughout the game they continually bring new, creative, left-field ideas that can make each table unique and interesting, by having things like gimmicks, different ball types, and limitations on what you can do. This within itself can change the moment-to-moment gameplay and add a new, interesting idea that you can run into each new table you play. For example, one table could be just a regular pool ball table, while another could be you scaling up a wall, or skiing down a cliff, or even fighting Stardust, Jim Sterling's alter wrestling ego. There are some ideas that are used more than once, but the developers at least try to put a spin on those returning concepts as well, or at least improve upon or build upon them. For example, all the zombie levels in the game require you to collect the cue sticks in order to shoot your ball. If you don't have any cue sticks, then you can't shoot your ball. It's kind of reminiscent of rail shooters in that respect, and they can change this based upon where they hide the cue sticks or where they hide the zombies, or even how zombies can even infect other balls in order to have more zombies chase after you and change you into a zombie if they touch you. So concepts like that are built upon and make the game even more fun. Now, in my opinion, some of the concepts didn't work, like the wall climbing, but the fact that the devs put forth the effort to even make these in the first place for more variety made the experience of playing Pool Panic always feel fresh and interesting. A new table would always bring new things, and thus I would never get bored of the game's concept. I also thought that the moveset within Pool Panic was pretty easy to grasp. You can move, you can jump, which I found to be useless within the game. You can aim, and when you can aim, you can do a hard shot or a soft shot. Also, while your cue ball protagonist is rolling, you can break him by either moving, or you could press a button in order to break him even faster. They show you this setup very early on in the game, and I think it is very easy to grasp, thus being accessible to a wide range of people and players. The game can also allow you to lock on to other pool balls by aiming at them for a certain amount of time, in which they have a small circle that'll turn yellow, letting you know that you're locked onto them. You can then walk around them without having to really aim at them and more aim at the pocket that you're trying to get them into. And it's things like this and other things that really speak to the visual literacy that Rekim put into this game. Like Amnesia that I reviewed before, Pool Panic can be a very visual game and you don't really need audio in order to play it. And I love that. Of course, I do like Grandmaster Garrett's soundtrack. Now, as you progress through Pool Panic, each table you clear contributes to a counter, and as you roll down this counter, more and more things could be unlocked. This includes an endless mode, called Panic Mode, a dark world with harder levels, a world map that shows you where all the tables are, and a fast travel in the form of a hang glider. I didn't have any issues at all with the gameplay, but there were some bugs that did ship with the game. There was one instance where I hit a ball and the camera just flew out of bounds. There was also some clipping and some really odd, wonky physics moments. I also had an issue with how the camera kind of acts in this game. The camera is kind of programmed Smash Brothers style, where it'll try to zoom out to fit all the balls within the screen sometimes, but other times it'll kind of zoom in as well to show specific balls, and it's kind of inconsistent, and the fact that I can't really control that kind of disoriented me at times. So when that did happen, it did kinda damper my mood just a bit. But overall, I really, really loved Pool Panic. This game is up there this year for me. It's with games like Super Mario Odyssey and God of War. My final score for it is a 9 out of 10. The only problems that I did have with the game was with those bugs and the camera. To close off this thoughts video, I would say Pool Panic is one of the most fun, unique, creative, varied, interesting, and challenging games I've played this year. It's a definite recommendation from me, and you should go buy it and play it now. So thank you very much for watching. Have you played this game? I hope you enjoyed this game because I really enjoyed this game. And it seems like all the creative people behind this really deserve to have this game become successful. And I hope it does. I hope this game does get some more fervor throughout the year. So that's it from me. Have a nice day.